And this is a perfect time to start because my dog just started barking at everything outside, which is already kind of annoying. I have to check on her in a second. I'm going to try to let her get it out for a second here, but I'll get set up. Let's get some music going. Start it over. How's everybody doing today? Yeah, my dog does hate when I start doing streams. It's like she was quiet. She was asleep actually right behind me for a while. And I opened up the window because it got a little warm in here, and I guess I can't hear anything outside because I have my headphones on, but I guess she does. Maybe I'll just close the door, but I don't want her to. She might be outside crying if I close the door. Let me move this. But yeah, tonight's installment. This is part 4 of the Linux 0 to. Hold on, let me give me 2 seconds real quick. All right, I need one of those be right back things. She's in the window barking at someone outside who stopped right in front of the door. What kind of dog did you used to have? My dog she's a Rottweiler, and she's cool most of the time, but she's actually not a good guard dog, but she's a great alert dog. I probably shouldn't have said that on stream, but hopefully none of you know where I live, so it's no big deal. But she's scary. She looks scary at least, but she's not scary at all. Oh, you had a poodle pit. Poodles are actually, poodles are scary. I've had bad experiences with poodles. I used to take her to the dog park like 3 or 4 times a week, and almost she's only had issues like 3 times, and they were always with poodles. I didn't know until I started taking her to the dog park that poodles are not small. I don't know, I guess I just grew up with just a lack of understanding. I never knew poodles were actually large dogs, and there were multiple kinds of poodles. There are teacup poodles, and normal poodles are pretty big, but those are always the dogs that gave her problems. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Let's up the size of this so we can get started. But yeah, tonight I didn't really I've been pretty busy working on a few things, stuff with work. Also, I don't know if you joined it. Anyone who joined it last time, I'm working on a platform. Thanks for the subscription. I appreciate that. A Biku. I think that's if I ever say it wrong. If you ever want me to say it properly, definitely give me a phonetic pronunciation in the chat, and I'll definitely shout you out the proper way for sure. But like I said, I've been pretty busy, but I wanted to hop on and still do a stream tonight, and go over some more advanced Linux commands. I guess the first stream we did a lot of the basics. We did a lot of just directory navigation. We did a lot of like creating users and things like that, manipulating files, a lot of the common things that you need to do just to kind of get around the operating system. We did some stuff, finding out how much memory you had left, CPU, things like that. Tonight we'll probably get a little deeper into some of the more advanced commands that you can use to kind of, I don't know, that the more that you would use on a job, that when you're kind of on a server and you're needing to, whether it be network things. Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit more of the advanced commands, and maybe we'll work on. I don't think we went over like piping commands together. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, but we'll just dive a little bit deeper. Maybe we'll spin up a server or something and get some stuff installed and maybe set up some applications or something like that too. But first, let me make sure this is big enough. This still doesn't look big enough. I think last time I put this on like 28. Make it a little larger. That looks better. Cool. So I wanted to start off with some of the I guess like small things that I do day to day that like I always miss out on trying to tell people about, and I usually don't remember when I'm trying to like help somebody out and they're not super familiar with the command line. But if you ever see me type and I start typing and really fast, you'll see the whole word complete here. You saw I just typed CD documents, and then it started coming up, and maybe I'll type in this and config files just shot up, and auto completed in here. So you may have thought I was typing very, very fast. I am not typing very, very fast. I'm actually a pretty terrible typist, and I think that's one of the reasons I like working inside of Linux so much. So Linux has Unix systems, Linux systems have something called tab auto completions. So what it will do is it will take whatever, so the directory I'm in now, if I'll do an ls here, you can see I have these, everything in dark blue, in blue on here for me is a directory. So let's say, this downloads directory here. What tab completion will do is it'll read whatever text you put in there, and it will try to match it against the things that you have available to you. So if I type in D and hit tab, it actually doesn't do anything because there are multiple things here with capital D's. There's downloads, there's desktop, and there's documents. So if I press tab, it doesn't do anything, but it will spit out my options here to let me know, hey, I need some more letters to know what to autocomplete, because these are not unique. It's not a unique string yet. So if I do an O and I hit tab again, you can see how it no longer spits out desktop in here. It gives me documents and it gives me downloads because those still match. And then if I do a C and hit tab again, it will autocomplete out to documents because that's the only one that matches. If I change it to W, it's downloads. So this can show you how you can rapidly get to paths, how you can rapidly type out paths or file names. You don't need to worry about remembering file names. Like, I don't need this file here, but if I wanted to delete it, I wouldn't have to. It doesn't only work for changing directories, and it doesn't only work for directories. If I wanted to delete that, I can hit EX, hit tab. I got nothing because there's other matches. Exorcism, I'll do a tab. I'll do a dash. I'll hit tab again, and it'll match. And now I've got the whole file name here. So I'll delete that. I don't really need it anymore. And you can see that is now gone from here. But tab completion, it takes a little bit of muscle memory, but once you get it, it's really good. It lets you do things pretty fast. I don't know if there's a special name for it. Let me see. Linux. Just Google it here. In case I've learned that some of the things that I've learned over the years, I do not have the right names for. So let's check real quick if there's a name for that. This time, definitely formatting disks can be real annoying in Linux. There's a lot of different ways. Well, there's a few different ways to do it, depending on what kind of file system you're working on. Most Linux boxes are probably going to be like a ext3 or 4 file system. I think Windows is like NTFS or something like that. I don't really know. Something close to that. I forgot what Macs are, but they've got different journaling systems, different file systems, and there are some commands you can run to both extend and kind of shrink or repartition your hard drives, and we can definitely do something like that in a little bit. So tab completion, that's what I want to search for. Tab completion Linux. I want to see if it has a cool name besides tab completion. Now it looks like it's just tab completion. Cool. I'll leave that up in case we need it again. So another cool thing that I actually just learned recently that I should have known, because it's based off of a git command. This is a very simple command, but I don't know. Not a lot of people I know have known about it. Like, I've actually talked to a few people and they didn't know about it. So let's say I'm in. If I type in pwd, if you forgot what that is, that's present working directory. That tells you where you are currently. Let's say I want to go into another directory. So I go into this exorcism folder. What else is in here? So actually, let's do this. Let's go back home and let's go into exorcism. Let's go to JavaScript. Some of multiples. Doesn't really matter where we're going. I just want to go deep into a directory. So I changed into this directory. It lets me know here, I'm now in this new directory. If I do present working directory, I get it a whole, thing about my location. If you want to go back to the directory you were just at, and maybe this is just me. Like, I've been working with Linux for a long time, but if you do a CD minus, so Git actually has a command like this. But if you do a CD minus, it will take you right back to where you were. It'll take you right back to the last directory you were in, and you can do it again, and it'll take you right back to here. That would have saved me so much time if I had known about that years ago. But I just learned about this a few months ago for somebody from work. That's pretty cool. A real quick one. If you just type CD, no matter where you are, it'll take you back to your home directory. A lot of people don't know that either, so I thought it would be a good thing to share. Let's see some other commands. So as you start to get into, a little deeper into Linux, you've got a good command of getting around the file system. You got a good command of, doing some of the administration stuff. You'll probably start having to do work on servers, and you probably have to start doing things with the web. So there are a lot of commands available that allow you to either make web requests, find out information over the internet. I think last time we talked about curl and wget, which both allow you to download things from the command line. There are a few others. So we started talking about DNS on one of these live streams. And so DNS is really the heart of the internet. It's how the internet kind of works. It's domain. It stands for domain name service. And it's what allows, when you type in, Google into your address bar, it's what makes it go to the right place. It's how your computer knows where to get that information from. So with that comes the need to query a lot of information sometimes about that. So there's a lot of things you can do. So one of them is you can do dig. There's a command called dig, which will query something called a name server. And if I do dig, nothing happens. But if I dig google.com, what I'll end up getting is this goes and makes a request to the authoritative name server for Google. Well, it probably reached out locally, to be honest, because I probably already had this in my local cache. But you can see here, I get the IP addresses that Google servers kind of reside at. And so I get more information than that, but usually that's what you want to do. If you want to find out the IP address of something, you want to find out, I think you can use dig to do a lot of other things. I think you can dig like MX records. So if I wanted to get the mail records from Google, so there are a few different DNS records. And so these records are what you set. Oh wow, that doesn't look good. I will clear that out. But if you, there are a lot of times where you'll need to gather the information. You'll need to get the records for a site. You'll need to get mail records. You'll need to get the IP address something is pointed at. Need to get the canonical name that something is a website is pointed at. That is how you can go ahead and do that. There's also another command called nslookup, which is kind of from my understanding, nslookup is outdated, and they want you to use dig now. They both do similar things. I think dig uses the system tools to do this, and I think nslookup has its own packages and things that are built to do the same things. I think dig is the preferred method. There's a lot of options in there, but that is how you would query information, about a domain or a server. You can also do things like reverse lookups. I think we did that last time. So that was pretty cool with that. Let's see here. I think we did, I'm not sure if we did the watch command, but there's a command in here called watch. So a lot of people don't know this, but the terminal that we're looking at, or terminal emulator, is actually it's actually a CRUD application. And I actually forgot what CRUD stands for. I think it's create, read, update, I don't know, display or something like that. Someone definitely finished that for me. I used to know all about CRUD stuff. I don't remember what the letters are for, but this basically, the terminal actually kind of does a weird little update every second or so. Yeah, create, read, update, and delete. Yep. But it's a CRUD application, so what happens is basically I think it's every second or so by default, or every like half second. I forgot what the cycles are for this, but it's actually just kind of refreshing itself. And so there are commands like the watch command, which can take advantage of that to do things like So to check the memory on my machine, I might run something like free-m. And let's say you were, let's actually contextualize this. Let's say you were working somewhere and one of the servers was having a problem. You were getting some alerts from the monitoring systems, and it said, hey, this server is, at 98% memory usage, and you're having some issues with it. You may log into it through SSH. You'll get inside here. You'll run, a free-m to check the memory. You can do free-g if you want the gigabytes, but free-m is the common one. This will give it to you in megabytes as opposed to gigabytes. If you just do free, it'll give it to you in bytes, which is, I don't know, to me it's useless, but if your eyes read that well, free-m is the best way to do it for me. But let's say you're watching it and you want to see, like, maybe you just restarted a service and you kind of want to take a look at the memory and kind of keep an eye on it for a little while, because you want real-time updates on what's going on with it. So you may just keep, pressing up. So if you didn't know, also, if you want to rerun the last command you just ran, you hit the up key and it will give you that. You can keep hitting up and it'll keep cycling through all the commands you ran in order, which is pretty cool. There are faster ways to do that too, which I'll show you in a second. But let's say you don't want to keep doing this, and you can see how my memory changes each time, because memory is pretty dynamic. But you can add a watch flag in front of this. So watch by default takes advantage of that CRUD interface, and it basically allows it to re-render the command by default every 2 seconds. Let you know here, and you can see here every 2 seconds this will probably change a bit. Yep, now it's 84. I'm not really doing that much on here, so this won't change much. But on a server or something like that, this will happen a lot, and there'll be big changes, and you can watch, you can watch the memory exhaust itself, or something like that. So it's just a good way to keep an eye on things that are going on, and you can give it an interval as well, but by default, again, it runs at 2 seconds, and it's a pretty good command to keep an eye on something. We talked about pressing up to get back to commands that you've already run. You can also type in history, pretty easy command, and that will give you a history of all the things that you've run. It's important to note that if I was in here and I ran some commands over here, well, it's actually not going to save those because those aren't real commands. Let's see. If I do a history here, I will see that I just ran that documents command, but I'll see that I changed in the documents here and then I ran history again. I actually will save this. I've seen it sometimes not save commands that failed. But if I do history over here, you can see it gave me the same stuff. It did not give me what's over here. It is not following what's going on. This history is not following what's going on. These are two separate instances of my terminal, so it doesn't follow that. Can you chain a few watch commands, or does the terminal only watch one thing at once? That's a good question. So let me think of, I'm pretty sure it'll only watch one thing at once. I think you would have to chain a command to give you one output, and then you could watch that. I don't think you could chain two watches together, but we could. I highly doubt that would work. Let's see, watch free-m. And so chaining it, you can chain commands in a few different ways. The way I assume you mean is to pipe it. And so that's something we were going to talk about tonight. Piping it, so like watch top, watch free. Yeah, I don't think that would work, but let's see. I'll watch free and then I'll watch top. Yeah, that didn't work. It looks like it tried it. And it's probably, so TTY is, that's what gives you your ability to type, and inside the top, you do have the ability to type. And I guess when you're doing watch, it doesn't allow you to get that. I don't know if there's a command to get top without a TTYs, but it's a good question. You should, as questions come up, you should definitely hop in and play around with it. Especially if you have a virtual box, especially if this is not your important work system. Your production system or something, I'd recommend getting in there and trying out these commands and seeing how they work together. But that was a good question, because there's other ways to chain commands together. So what we did first here, this is a pipe. What will happen here, this is actually, most people don't know what key this is. On my keyboard, I think most keyboards, it is the key right above the enter key on I think most computers, and you do have to hit shift to get it. It's the same key as the slash. But what that does is it's called pipe, and what it does is it takes the output of what's on the left, so the command that comes first, and it will evaluate that. It'll run that command, and it'll take the output and pipe it into the command on the right. So I can do something like this. I can go into documents, and let's go into Crucible, and let's go into Go, and let's go into Scrabble score, since there'll be a little bit of output there. All right, so we got some files in here. So cat is a command that we learned about pretty early on. So we're gonna run cat. We're gonna run Scrabble score. We're gonna grab one of these files. But cat stands for, it's short for concatenate. It's gonna spit out the contents of a file onto your screen or into the terminal. So I'll go ahead and hit that, and basically everything that's in this program that we ran is now in is spit out to the terminal here. But what you can do is you can take that, and maybe you can go, I'll pipe this in, maybe in here, I just want to see, well, I could have done this without actually catting it, but maybe I want to see, you know, I only want to see the line that says word uppercase. So maybe I don't have access to an IDE. Maybe I don't know how to grep really well. I'm going to use grep for this, but maybe I don't really know how to use Vim or something. I don't really know how to find what I want, but I want to check if something is in here, and I want to, I'll do grep. So grep is a command that I don't think we went over, but grep is how you, this is how you look for string matches. So it's basically a search tool. It's like the little, in VS Code, open that up, but it's just like the little, the search tool, the find tool, basically. I don't like to call it a find tool because, you know, there's a find tool in Linux, but it's just a search, and then you can do things with it. But I can grep for word uppercase, and maybe I want to just make sure this is in the file. And what it'll do is it'll spit that out to me. It'll print everything to the screen first, and then it'll take that output and it'll search against it. You can also, you actually don't need to do that. You can just grep this directly, and you can grep word uppercase in, what was the file that we did here? Scrabblescore.go, and it'll also give us the same output. You can see how you can do things in multiple ways. I'm trying to think of another cool way to pipe some commands together. I can't think of an example offhand, but I use pipes. I use pipes every day. Every single day I pipe commands together to kind of string commands along. So that's a good one. So you can also do another way to string commands together is the double ampersands. So you can do something like, let's go back to catscrabble.go. Actually, another quick command, another quick tip. What I did just, well, if you look at my screen, I just did something. I hit Control R. So what that gives you is this gives you a reverse iSearch. So this allows you to reverse search through the history of commands that you've just run. This is an invaluable tool. So instead of typing history, and having to search through this, so you can also grep history. So let's say I wanted to rerun I want to see the commands I ran against my exorcism folder to see if I deleted it. Whoops, that was stuff. So I do history, and I can grep exorcism, and it'll give me everything that I ran. But I can, if I know, like, hey, I want to rerun the last command that I ran from exorcism or something, or I'm not sure, I can do Control R to go into reverse history search, and then I can just start typing exorcism, and it gives me in reverse order the matches for this. So, you know, it says history, grep exorcism first, and you can see here all I've typed in is EXER, and if I don't want that one, I can hit Control R again. It gives me the next one, and it just keeps going like that. And if you want to run this, whatever command, you just hit enter, and it'll run that command. So it's a very quick way to get back to where you were. So you can also do, but you can also string together commands like this. You can run. You can do a double ampersands in between. So this is what this does is this will run in the same way that a pipe works. This will run the code on the left, but it will wait for this command to finish, and then it will run the on the right, but only if this completes with a successful exit code. And so if I do this, this is going to work. What happened here? Did it run the grep? What happened? Did I delete that? And grep. Oh, well, it's not gonna find anything for the grep, so I did run that. But if I do grep return in the same file, this should, so it ran this. This is actually the output from the file, and then this is the output from the grep that ran. Now, if I change the name of this file to something that doesn't exist, so in this folder, there's no file called scrabblescore.got. I just added a T to the end of this. If I try to run this, it should fail. And it failed. It never ran this return total because it couldn't find this. It says no such file directory on the cat, and basically, it will not run the command afterwards because of that. So that's actually pretty. That's actually a pretty good thing to do when you are. If you are shell scripting, sometimes there's a lot of use cases for that, so that you can, throw out an error, if you hit something, or if you need it to stop, if you got some data critical things and you need it to stop in case there's a failure on the first part, you can use and to do a lot of things with to handle things with that. Cool. Let me see. So let's try this watch free. Let's see. That might work actually. So we'll break down this command too. So we're going to try this watch command again, and then we're going to run this free-m, which is going to give us our memory, and then we're going to pipe that to head. And so what head is going to do is head is going to by default give us the top 10 lines of the output, and then that's going to also, I don't want to say pipe it, but that's also going to allow us to run ls-l after it. And so basically what happens here is the semicolon allows you to string commands together as well, but it will not, I don't think a semicolon will fail, will stop on a failure. So I think if I do this with a semicolon, I haven't used a semicolon in a while, you can, even if there's a failure on the first command, you can see here it still went through and ran my grep command afterwards. So that command we just ran here is we're stringing multiple commands together now. We're watching this free command, and then we're only choosing the top 10 lines. There's not 10 lines in there, and then we're running this ls-l command, and we get this. And I wonder, it would be cool to see if I modified. Let me add a file here. Well, is that also in the watch? So let me see something really quick. Which we're in documents. Where am I? Actually, CD Crucible. The Go. What's the Scrabble score? Let me touch test.txt and see if this watch updates. And yep, you can see here, because it's basically running this every 2 seconds. You can see here that it added the file that I just added to this directory. But cool, yeah. So that's a quick lesson in stringing commands together. So again, you have you have a pipe. A pipe allows you to take the output of what's on the left and push it into the output that's on the right. You have the double ampersands, which allows you to run the command on the left, and only run the command on the right if the first one succeeds. So basically, if there's a double ampersands, it will fail if the first command fails. And then you can also string them together with just a semicolon, and that will just run one command after another if you just want to run multiple commands. So that's pretty cool. Some other cool ones, you can run, like, if you just want to see how long a server's been up or your computer's been up, you can run uptime. Uptime will give you, you know, the current time. It'll also give you how long this has been up. So my computer's only been up, this VM's only been up for 57 minutes. Actually, I wonder what will happen if I do it in here, in my Windows one. I wonder if it'll give me the right uptime. Oh, so you can see my main machine's been up for almost 24 hours. Yeah, so it'll give you that information. Also gives you the load average. The load average is the so load average is actually what is it? I think it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So it's the average over a course of time. And this is the load is a calculation of it's mostly a calculation of CPU usage. It's actually very difficult to explain this to someone when you're trying to teach them how to manage systems and troubleshoot systems, to know when this score, when the load average is bad or not. The first place I ever worked, because they were all shared VMs, if it got to 1, it was bad. Basically, it was gonna, like, a load of 1 was basically gonna shut down the server. Like, the server was gonna become unusable. And then the next job I went to, we had a server with a load of like 6, and the server was fine. And because it was a much beefier server, it had a lot of cores, and, you know, a load of 6 was fine for it. So there's a calculation in there. I actually don't know how it's calculated, but there is a calculation in there of like, I think it's like core count, and thread usage or something like that. And it'll give you the computer's load average. So if a command runs and the second one after and it fails, does it reset the first command like a transaction? No. If it if the second command fails, so like if we were to run this, and I can show you, or let's run the last cat command we ran. If I put an n in here, and I change the name of this to a file that doesn't exist, no, the first one will still run. The first one will, like, the first command has to actually complete before the second one runs. So it's not like a transaction. It's just done for. Actually, that failed because I didn't fix the name of this file. But yeah, see, it'll still run the first one, and then it'll give me the answer for the second one, because it's just one command after another. But also an excellent question. So we went over dig, we went over, what else did we go over? We went over, all the watch stuff. We went over the chaining commands together. There's some other good ones like W. So W, I think is a shortcut for wall. And this will let you know all the users that are in the system. You can actually message users from wall. Okay, perfect. Yeah, load average depends on your memory and core density. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, so it will not be the same. A bad load average will not be the number won't be quite the same on every computer. So don't be confused if you're messing with a system and a load of 2 kills it, but you get somewhere else and you spike up to a load of 24 and the server, like, yeah, it's probably bad, but it's still fine. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, W allows you to see kind of who's on the computer, every user that's on this box, and kind of what they're doing. So if you maybe you have a development environment where all the developers actually have to log in, and you want to know, maybe you are running something, maybe you're running some maintenance or something, and you want to make sure people are not in there. You can do W to kind of see all the users that are in there. And then you can actually do, I haven't had to do this in a long time, but I think you can do wall, and then type in a message like, shutting this down in 10. And what this will do is that'll spit out, nothing happened here, but it'll spit out a message to all the users that are on the box immediately. It'll pipe it right to their screen. And so you can kind of let people know, hey, you got 10 minutes before I run some maintenance on here. So, save your work, make sure you're doing everything you need to do before I do that. So that's a cool one that I've used a fair amount. We've gone over top. I'm kind of looking through some cool commands to see if there's anything that I do a lot. Oh yeah, I think we talked about I think on Monday we talked about aliases. Aliases are pretty cool and can save you a ton of time when doing anything. So someone gave me an alias while we were doing the JavaScripting workshopper. And so when you're doing the JavaScripting workshopper, you have to run a command called JavaScripting verify to check your files. That can be a little daunting to type out. It can be a little long to type out. And we wrote an alias to change that to be able to run with the command JSV. So if I type an alias here, this will spit out the aliases that currently exist on my system. So don't get confused by this. Like I know it's a lot of characters and things here. But an alias is exactly what it sounds like. It is a way for you to disguise basically you're going to mostly use it to disguise a longer command with a shorter command. So basically when I type in so this alias for the word alert, when I type in alert, it's going to run this entire command right here. And the same thing for the rest of these. So whenever you see me type in LL, because that's usually how I look at my directories, it actually runs this command instead. And so it runs the ls command with a few different flags, a being all files, so even the hidden ones, l being long list, so it lists it out like this and gives me all the permissions and dates and sizes and things, and the f actually gives me the appending, it actually appends the type. So if I do not do, so I'll show you this. If I do ls-al, it'll give me this, and luckily because I have some color coding, let me go to directory with more. Let me go somewhere with more directories. If I do ls-la, you can see already how these two are different, but because it color codes, I know directories are blue, but you may be on a system where it does not color code the directories, and if you add in the f, it adds an append to this, so like it adds a slash to let you know that it is a directory, and that I found that that's very helpful for me. It's actually, I noticed it immediately when I run a command that does not have that on there. I don't know, just because I'm used to looking at it with a slash at the end. That really helps me in my eye memory. I know what's going on. But you can set up an alias. So what was that watch command that we ran? Did we run that over here? I think we ran that over, yep, we ran that over here. And so let's take this watch command. Let's say this watch command is something that we have to do all the time. The only thing that we need to do to set up this command is type in alias. And let's say for this command, let's say we want to run, let's say we want to call it, instead of watch, we want to call it like, I don't know, something super easy like, mem, because it looks like we're checking the memory here. We'll alias it for mem, and we'll just paste this in. I think I need to put it all in quotes. Hopefully this works because there's extra quotes in here. And yeah, maybe I need to put the whole thing in double quotes. Maybe this one might be weird because there are quotes in here. All right, cool. So now if we type in mem, just like that, it runs our command. So you can see how you can save a lot of time, especially if there's long commands that you string together every day. So actually, I don't know if I have I don't think I have my my AWS credentials set up here. Let me check if I do. All right, so I do have them. I actually had set, there's a directory on my laptop that I use one of my S3 buckets for a lot of the backups, but I do a fair amount of rsyncs and checks in that. I do some rsyncs and I do a couple of other like file moves in there. So I basically so you can map those to functions, but I just mapped it to like a long, there's a long AWS command with a bunch of different options that I've mapped just to the alias backup. So I just have been backup, and it runs all that for me. There's a lot of other ways to do that too, but yeah, that's how you can do things very quickly with aliases. Cool. And I think that's maybe we'll stop there with the commands, and maybe we'll hop into a server or something, and let's actually use some of these commands to maybe do some cool things. So I'm actually gonna log into AWS really quick. While I log in, let me pull this to my other screen. Get logged in. Not that you could see any of my information, but better safe than sorry. And I don't want anybody spamming my email, even though I'll give it to you freely. Cool, password and auth code. I don't think you can see my hands either, but even if you can, I'll just change my password afterwards. Terrible security practices. I'll get better though. Let's see here. I got 2-factor auth set up, so even if you had my password, you'd had trouble getting in. Let's see. Cool. All right, so we're in. So what I'm in now is Amazon Web Services dashboard, full screen mode. Switch this back to full screen. So this is the cloud. Well, this is a cloud provider. The cloud is a colloquial term to describe a network of computers, really. But let's go ahead and spin up. Let's go ahead and spin up a server. So in AWS, there's these things called EC2 instances. This is their kind of default server. They actually have something called Lightsail now, which they also use for this, which is more of a virtual private server. But they've got these EC2 instances. I got one running here for a project that I'm doing, but let's launch one real quick. And so if you have a Windows command and you're kind of afraid to kind of get your hands dirty, and you want to mess around with some Linux stuff, sign up for AWS account. You can also use, there's a bunch of other services too, but if you want to be able to follow along, and because I'm actually going to do this, and you can kind of click around and do the same things I'm doing. Sign up at AWS. It might ask you for your for a credit card number, but most of theirs, they have a lot of free tier stuff for a lot of their things. So you see all these things are free tier eligible. So we'll grab one of these and grab the server. We'll grab the free tier one, and we'll just kind of click through. We don't really need. I'll do this just in case we want to save it or something. I don't need tags. Security group. I'm going to add a new security group. So basically everything in Amazon is it's pretty secure by default. What I'm going to do is add a security rule so that we can actually connect to it from a web port, which is port 80. And I'll leave that like that, and then we'll launch it. So with a click of a few buttons, I want a new one for this. Because I don't know what I have. Actually, let me see. Do I need a new one? What do I have saved on here? Do I have any keys here? What about in documents? I have a stream test. Do I have that one here? Choose existing. No, that doesn't look like something I have. What about in my downloads? Stream test. It's the same thing. All right, cool. Well, I don't have any of the ones that are here. Let's create a new key pair. Let's call this second stream test because this is gross. You should delete your keys that you're not using. Squeeze the window a little. Oh, sorry. Yep. Squeeze it in just a little bit here. And I'll actually make it larger. And move it to the edge. But basically, to log into Amazon Web Services, they do not allow you to log in via username and password. And that's for a lot of reasons. They used something called SSH keys, so secure shell keys, and it gives you a key pair. So basically, it puts a key pair. It basically takes one half of that key pair and stores it on your server, and then it gives you the other key pair, which you can distribute to whoever you like, whoever you want access to have access to the server. You distribute that key to them, and those people are then able to authenticate with the server. It's pretty secure. So I'll click launch. Maybe I won't click launch. What's happening here? I broke it. I broke something. I can't get rid of. Actually, let's do this. Let's F. Man, this is let's try to alt tab in here, and then let's go back. All right, I'll hit escape, then I'll hit launch. Oh yeah, downloaded a second stream test. I acknowledge, launch. All right, cool. That was weird. It got a little weird in my VM with what I was doing. Let's move this over again. Yep, yeah, that resize really messed with something. Cool. So just like that, I've launched a server. Again, there are easier ways. Like I said, Amazon does have something called Light Sail, which may be a little bit easier to deal with. The interface is actually completely different, but you can just create an instance and it'll let you like install an app by default. But maybe we're gonna go ahead and install some of this stuff on ours, but you can just do an OS only and click through. It's a little bit better of an interface. There's also other services like DigitalOcean is probably one of the more well-known ones for ease of use. If you want to just spin up yourself a little cheap server to be able to try out some of this stuff, you know, in a safe environment where you don't have to worry about things breaking. But cool. So our server should be up and it's here. We didn't give it a name. I'll delete that later. But what happens is this, man, it is not like the zoom I gave it. Cool. So all you need to do to log into the server, again, everything. So the internet is just, it's a giant network. It's very similar to a network of people. You know, you have your connections. You know, I know my best friend Devin, and I know this person. That computers are the same way. They're all connected to each other through a series of networks. But it's literally physical hosts making connections to physical hosts through some wire. And so to be able to do that, they've got to have, you know, identifier names. So kind of like an address to your house, kind of the same way your house is connected to all the roads in the country. And I can put your address in the Google Maps and figure out a route there. Computers kind of do the same thing. And so once your server spins up, it's going to give you this public DNS address, and it's going to give you this public IP. So the IP is really what matters. That's really what gets assigned to the machine. And then this is something that's relatively dynamic and can change. So actually, like this actually will, if I was to spin this down and spin it back up, this will probably change. The IP might as well because of the way Amazon works. But this is like more of a dynamic thing. There's also these private addresses here, which are like, they are routes to your services, but only like to my internal network. It's kind of like, you know, having the special, you know, address to a different door or something in the house, to a secret room or something. But it can only be accessed from anything that's kind of in the same network as this, and it's not publicly available as this one is. But to log into our server, we're just going to go ahead and grab this. We are going to run actually we just downloaded a new key, so there's one important thing we need to do first. Maybe I'll move that somewhere better, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run a command called chmod. This is change mode. Someone told me that last time because I didn't know what chmod meant, but I knew what it did. And this, I'm going to change the permissions. We talked about permissions as well, but this is the key here that was downloaded from Amazon. And if I try to log in now, it will not work. And just to save some time, I'm going to fix it. It won't work because SSH keys are super secure. And this permission says that this file is readable and writable by basically me and everyone in like my user on this computer and everyone in my users group. And then also this file is readable by everyone else in the world. So anyone can read this file if they had access to my computer. Now I'm going to change that so that only, whoops, I didn't give it the name. I'm going to change it so that The only person who can read this file is just me. No one else has any permissions to this file. And then I'm going to use that file to log into this host. So SSH is secure shell. That's how you log into remotely into a Linux machine. Or one of the ways. There's a couple of other ways like VNC and some other things, but this is the main way you're going to be doing this. And so I'll do SSH-I lets you input an identity file. And so my identity file is going to be this key here. And it's going to use that to authenticate. And then the user for my server is Ubuntu. Amazon still needs to fix this. There's no easy way to know what the default user is on your compute on their servers. Maybe it's something they added. Maybe you have to type in like AWS EC2 default users. Maybe there's a list here in the documentation that gives it to you because it's different per operating system. That's why I went with Ubuntu. This is dumb. They need to fix this like right now. But yeah, so I know that the user is Ubuntu. For Amazon Linux, I think it is EC2-user. I think for Red Hat and CentOS, I think for CentOS it is CentOS as the user, and I think it's EC2 for Red Hat, or maybe it's root. I think it's root for Red Hat. It's pretty wild, and they don't tell you what the right one is. Is Chmod 044 particular code to set to read only? No, 044 is not the only way to set it to read only. Actually, it is. So yes and no. So 044, 0400, actually I can take off the first zero. Sets it to read only for my user. You can do some things to where you have a group with only one person or whoever you want, and you can make this 0, and you can make this one a 0, and then the second 3 read only. So it could be like, it could be 040 if you wanted the people in the group to be read only. You can do it that way too. I mean, I guess to make it read only, you could also just do everyone. You could put 4 at the end. So everyone could read it. It all depends on who you want to be able to read it, but to read it, to read only, 4 is the number for that. So each of the 3 of these, let's do something first. Let's real quick, a quick refresher on permissions. If I chmod 777, this stream test pim, and I do this gives access to everything. So 4 is the number that corresponds to the R's. To the reads, 4 it corresponds to readability. 2, there's no 3, it's 4. There's 2 responds to writability, and 1 corresponds to executability. To combine these, you basically add them up. So those 3 numbers will always give you, depending on the way you combine them, will always give you a unique number. So if I want something to be readable and writable, but not executable, that corresponds to a 6. If I want it to be readable and executable, that corresponds to a 5. And so that's how you can kind of denote that. But 4 is the number for readability only. So if you're trying to make it read only, 4 is the number that you want. So let's put that command back together. Let's specify our identity file. I know my user is Ubuntu, and we're gonna paste in that DNS address that we have. So to your user, it's always gonna be the user at the IP address or the DNS address. So if it's a website, if it's a server for a website and you've got DNS set up right, so I have the domain mastermind.io. I could type in Ubuntu at mastermind.io for this, again, because this DNS name is actually just a pointer, is actually just a record that corresponds to an IP address. We'll talk about that later as well. But this should get me logged in. It's going to let me know, hey, this is the first time you're connecting to this. Do you want to, or sure you want to connect to this to the server that has a fingerprint that we don't have saved in our system? And here it lets you know you're kind of logged in. It gives you some extra information here about what's going on with your computer. Gives you some kind of warnings, give you some kind of things that they need to give you by law. And then so you have a server. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna I'm not gonna change to root. I'm just gonna update. Sudo apt get update. Just gonna update my packages really quickly. I think what we're gonna do real quick is we're gonna try to install some. Maybe we'll install like Nginx real quick. Set up a virtual host. Maybe set up like a WordPress really quickly as well. Just so show you how to set up some other services that you have to do more setup besides just, the download of it. And maybe we'll grab a HTML page or something and we'll route in between the two or something like that real quick. It should probably take 10 minutes. So we updated. I'm not going to upgrade it right now because that might take a while. But yeah, so the first thing we're going to do, I can probably get Nginx by default. So let me try to get Nginx and I'll explain to you what it is and what it does. Sudo apt-get, I'm tripping. Cool, so Nginx is a web server. We talked about this before. Web server being, web server, yeah, traffic. I know, I'm gonna get to traffic for sure. Traffic is pretty cool. Actually, someone just brought up traffic at work. And it's definitely something I'm going to be interested in looking into. I think they're using it for projects, and definitely something I'm going to check out, especially since it's written in Go. I love Go. I may even try to contribute to it as well. But so we got Nginx here. And so this allows you to, respond to web requests. So if I hit this, if I hit the IP address or the DNS address of the server, so this is the same thing that we got from here. This is the DNS address for the server. Nginx responds. It says, welcome to Nginx. So a lot of the internet still runs on a web server. There are other ways to run stuff now, but yeah, responds over a web server. Nginx being a large one, Apache being probably much larger, I believe. Those are the two you're probably going to want to remember. Windows is IIS. Yeah, Microsoft is IIS. I think you can install Apache and Nginx on Windows as well, but the one you're going to be using on Windows is called IIS. But yeah, so now our stuff is responding, and so we have this. But how will we serve up something different? So we can do. Let's grab a free HTML template. HTML site. Free. Actually, let's go free HTML template. So let's grab a quick HTML site. Whoops, not from Wix. That's not where I wanted to go. I actually think there's I think if I go to html5up.net, that feels right. Cool. We'll grab one of these real quick. So I'm gonna copy this link because I don't feel like downloading this on my computer and then uploading it to the server. I could show you that, but I don't feel like doing that right now. So I'm going to download this straight to the server. So to download a file from the internet straight to a server, you can use wget and paste in the URL. I actually think this is going to fail. Well, this is not going to give us what we want because that download link is weird. I probably need to actually click on the... Actually, hold on, let me full screen this. It doesn't like that. Let's see here. Actually, that download link, I might have to. Yeah. Okay, no biggie. I will show you how to get it on the server. But if you do want to wget something, you can just wget it. I also think this is not going to work because it's trying to do it over 443, and I did not open up 443 at the port 443, which is the default port for secure internet connections. I don't have any. I didn't set up any rules for 443, so that may be another reason why as well. But no biggie. We will upload this file to the server. So there's something cool to know. So let's go into our downloads, and we just downloaded this. What did we just? Oh, this HTML5 up massively zip. The same way we ran this SSH command. So we did SSH-I second stream test.pem. we can use a command called SCP, which is secure copy, that uses SSH to connect. And I think we just passed in a host, I believe. That's all you have to do. So let's copy the host. I think it's a -H. I haven't done this in a while either. So let's paste in the host. So you say, no. Actually, that's not what you do. I'm tripping. I'm thinking of something else. You do SCP. So secure copy -I. You got to give it the thing. You got to give it that again. You tell it which file you want to copy. So HTML5 up, and then you do Ubuntu. So your user, it's really the same way you're going to do the SSH command. And I'm going to paste this in. And I don't think I need that. And then I have to give it the location on the server where to put it in. I'm going to put it in my home directory. And so you can do your home directory with just a little tilde. And there we go. You can see it's uploading. And now it's done. So you can use that's how you can use SCP to copy things from one server to another, or locally to up to a server. I'm trying to write some HTML, but yeah, I'm not gonna write HTML because I am a terrible web developer. So I'm not a terrible web developer, but I don't like to write HTML at all, to be honest. So now that if we do an ls here, we can now see this is the server. You can see that this is a server from the IP address and that the user is now Ubuntu. You can see that this zip file is here. So we can do, let's copy this somewhere. So usually on a server, this may have changed, but usually by default, there's a var www HTML directory. So I'm going to change here. And this is usually the default location for a website to be served from. It can be served from anywhere. It doesn't really matter. It does not matter where that is. You just have to specify it inside of Nginx. But this is just a common location. If you ever, get to a place, get to a company, and they kind of don't tell you where stuff is, that's a good place to look. So the var www HTML directory is usually where you want to go. And so when you see this welcome to Nginx thing, Nginx, when I installed it, actually placed this file here, most likely. And if I look at it, we take a look at this file, it's basically the HTML of exactly what exists, on the page there. So what we're gonna do real quick is show you how kind of you can use web servers to serve up stuff on different domains, but not even just different domains, but also different URIs, so different location blocks. So we're gonna still serve this up on this page, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a new directory here, and we're gonna call it what's it called? Massively. Actually, let's copy it here, and it'll make its own directory. So let's copy that from here. Copy. HTML5 up. Massively.zip, and we'll copy that here. It won't let me do that by default because this directory's parents are owned by root, and I am not the root user. So you can just, whenever you see a permission denied in Linux, you should probably try sudo if you know what you're doing. And I'll do that. So now this file is here. How do you feel about Nginx not having HT access? I know Apache isn't cool, but so what do you mean about it not having HT access? Not having HT access by default, it will respond to HT access rules. It definitely will respond to HT access rules. Maybe not. Actually, maybe I'm thinking of when I was using Apache as a container. I'm pretty sure Nginx will respond to HT access rules, but maybe I'm wrong. The routing config is part of the app. I'm fine with it. I don't really feel any particular way about it. I've never really needed it. But I guess I can see a lot of ways where you would, and it would be weird not to have it. But I don't really feel any way about it, to be honest. But yeah, so now we have this new directory here. I mean, with this new file here, we have the zip file of the site that we just downloaded. And to unzip, the same way you would unzip a folder on your computer, we're gonna unzip this file with the unzip command and just pass it in. And it says I do not have unzip by default, so I'll do apt-get install unzip. And so you can see how easy it is to install packages in Linux, and you can see how nice it is for it to tell you exactly what you should use. And so I tried to unzip, but again, you get all these permission denied errors. Again, sudo, cool. So that unzipped this file for me. Actually, I should not have done that the way I just did that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove this -rf HTML massively. I'm just going to remove the zip file just to clean this up a bit. I don't know why I thought this was going to unzip in its own directory. I could have told it to, but I'm going to go back one directory. I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to call it HTML underscore default for the Nginx file that we're going to use. So basically, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to serve up both the default Nginx template and the new HTML template that we just did. So yeah, I 1000%. I usually sudo su, but I've seen people get into bad habits off of watching me sudo su. So I don't want people to watch this and think they can just sudo su. But it's good to talk about. If you want to stay root, you can use sudo to escalate yourself to the root user. So I could do sudo su, and now I'm the root user, and no command I enter is going to give me an error. It will do whatever I type in. Again, if you don't know what you're doing, do not do what I just did. But yes, that is something that you can do if you're tired of typing sudo for every command. 1000%. So let's copy HTML /Nginx. Was it? Yeah. We're gonna copy this into the HTML default folder. Oh man. All right, I might sudo su now. You're right. That's very annoying. Cool. So now if I look at this HTML default folder, that Nginx thing is there. So actually now, if I refresh the page, by default, it gives me the new site that I just put. And I'll show you why in a second. Actually, I'll show you right now. So Nginx has configuration files, and it's all configuration based. And let's go into so it's got this. This one probably has. It's got a main file that is this Nginx configuration file. And it's just, there's a lot of, you'll have to search through their documentation to kind of learn what everything does. And I don't think the default, and so basically here it's including this, it's basically including some external configuration files, which are in these two directories. The sites enabled, sites available are like configurations for websites that you have that are available, but they're not enabled until you symlink them or put those configs into the sites enabled directory. So if we look at sites available, we can see here that there's this default config, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But if we look at the sites enabled, we'll probably see a symlink to that. And so what this is called a symlink. It's called a symbolic link. Basically, there's like a fake link in here to this file that kind of puts them in both locations, so you can kind of access this file through this little link here. So it's not actually in both of these directories; it's in this directory, and it's kind of linked to this directory. So what we're gonna do is let's take a look at that. Sites available. Instead of Vim default. All right, so there's a lot of text in here. These are all comments. Comments are not read. They are ignored by the program. This is just so it can give you some documentation and let you know where you can go to get more information. This is the where you want to start. So basically this sets up a server block. This tells Nginx, hey, allow the server. We're gonna set up a server to listen on port 80, so you can have Nginx listen on different ports if you want. And if I don't know if you remember when I was setting up the server, I made a rule specifically for port 80. Port 80 is the default web socket, default web port. And then this line here lets us know that this is the default server. So, so any request that comes in will kind of go through here. This is the same block, but this is for IP version 6, IPv6, to listen also on IPv6. So it's kind of set up this way by default. Then it gives you some other configuration if you want to uncomment these. You can have it be set up to listen on secure ports. So I told you port 443 is the secure port. So whenever you go to a site, almost every site now, you know, is listening on 443. So if I go to, like, whenever you see this HTTPS with the little lock over here, that is HTTPS is port 443. Almost all sites listen on 443 now. So yeah, that's what you're going there. So remember those two numbers, port 80, port 443. And then this is the important line. Remember I told you that var www HTML thing. This is what lets the server know where the root is, and it lets it know where to grab files from. And so that's the important line right there. So we will leave this, and actually we'll modify this. So then there's these location blocks. So we set up the server, and there's these location blocks that let you know where, like, you can use these to route the data, route requests to different things. So we'll actually do this again when we get back into Docker, and we're running a bunch of different services. But so by default, everything goes to slash, and then it tries some stuff, but by default it goes to this var www HTML thing. We can set up another location block. Whoops, read only, because I didn't do sudo. So let's go sudo, and let's add another location block in here. So let's actually say we actually want the root of the site to actually be var www HTML default. So if we want the site to stop showing this new site that we just put in here, let me make that small again. We want it to show the original page. We'll point it back to where it was. And let's save that really quick. And let's go to service Nginx restart. Feels right. Sudo, because that's not going to work. All right. So now if I refresh this, it goes back to the original page, because now I told it to point to the directory that we made. So we made, I'll come back to here, but var www. We made this HTML default directory, and I put the old site in there. The default site, I put it in here. And so now by default, we've configured it to serve from there. But what we can do is we can vim default, and we can add a new location, and we can do location. We're gonna have it equal to, actually I don't even need to do equal. There are some rules you can put here. You can use regular expressions to set up kind of some matching patterns. So you can do like starts with, you can do, you know, matches just the beginning or things like that. But I'm gonna do anything that, so location equals exclamation point Discord. We should I thought about starting a Discord channel, but people are part of so many Discord channels that I was like, people don't want to manage another one. But if people will be interested in a Discord channel, I'll happily set one up. So definitely, if you are interested in a Discord channel, I will definitely start one if people are interested in that. But so you can set up this location, and I can go set up a block in the same way. And cool. So now we have a location for master, and for /master, I'll make it mastermind. And now in here we can put some different rules. We can proxy at different places. We can, you know, if we were running, you know, different things, we could proxy it to a new port. We could actually, you know, set up some logic to reroute this to Google or anything like that. But for now, we are going to have this go to a different root. And I think we can do this by, I'm actually gonna look it up because I never remember the syntax for this stuff. So you can see my super Googling skills. We could do Nginx, location, root path, or we can do alias, I guess. But yeah, okay. So I can just add another root to the block. I think that's the question, but is the answer. This is replace root by alias. All right, cool. Let's try alias. So what we'll do is we'll just add in the alias. Was it equals? I wasn't looking, and we'll copy this. We'll see if this works. This seems wrong. But let's just see if this works. So I'm gonna save this. There's actually ways to run Nginx tests before you try to restart. If you did something wrong and your Nginx configuration is incorrect, Nginx, the great thing about Nginx is it will not restart. It runs the test first to make sure. It will give you an error first, and it will not attempt to restart your Nginx so that it is broken. Because if you do restart it with a broken configuration, the service will fail to come up. So this will affect you if you don't fix it before the server restarts. So if the server restarts with a broken configuration, it will not, Nginx will never start up. But if you break a configuration and you try to restart it to get it to enable it, then it will not die. So it didn't give me an error, so that's probably right. So let's refresh, and it still gives us our main site. And let's do mastermind. And you can see here, just that easy, we've put in routing logic to be able to serve up two different pages. You probably wouldn't do, well, you would do stuff like that a lot. But you would also use Nginx to do, let's look back at this default. Up here where this server block is, and the listen for default, you can have it listen for, you would set up a new one of these. This is the default one. I could set up one for if I'm running multiple sites off of my server. I could set up one for each domain, so I could have google.com, a separate one for yahoo.com, a separate one for, Ask Jeeves, and then a separate one for Bing. And I would have it listening for that. And when the request came in, it would know immediately to use which it would immediately know which virtual host to use. These are all called virtual host files, and it would know to use the right one. And you could put your logic below. And again, there's a lot of different things you could do. Like, let's add another one where we do, let's do a redirect to like Google or something. So we'll do another location, and we'll do slash search, and slash search is going to proxy you to Google, and then I think you can just do proxy. Let's see, I don't want to, we need to redirect a proxy. Maybe I'll just redirect, which I think is actually we can return, what is it, like a 301, and we can return, it feels right. So what I'm doing here is there's this is an HTTP response code, a 301, there's a 301 and a 302 redirect. I actually don't know which one's which. Let's Google it. One's permanent and one's temporary. I think 302 is permanent. And this basically just tells your browser which whether or not it should check back in for this. Let me see here. Okay, permanent is 301 and 302 is temporary. Cool. So we'll use this to redirect, and let's go Nginx 302 redirect just to make sure we got that right. Just because I don't remember syntax all the time, but I think I did it right. I think you just return, so you can rewrite, but I don't think you need to rewrite. I don't want to rewrite. Nginx return 302. Let's see here. Yeah, and so it looks like I did that right. Cool. So let's test that out, and just wanted to confirm. And let's restart Nginx again, and let's go and make sure our sites are still working. So massively still working. If we go to nothing, we still get Nginx, and if we go to search, it sends us to google.com. So so you can kind of see how like you can really a web server is just kind of a big like logic box, and you can just write all these rules to basically handle web requests when they come in. So it's just logic on, you know, how to respond when someone requests certain information, because that's all the internet really is. The internet is just computers making requests over the web, and then another computer basically processing that and responding. That's what a web server allows you to do. That's what Nginx allows you to do. And you can see how Nginx is actually very easy to learn and to use. Again, I'm sure it's daunting, kind of just looking at all this random text and not being familiar with all the configuration options you have available to you. But you can get by heavily off of copying and pasting. It's more about the concepts. Again, you saw I had to look up the syntax just to do this alias. I wasn't sure if it was root or directory root or what. So I had to look up those things. I've been kind of using Nginx for a long time. Other than that, Apache is very similar to this. So you know, the syntax isn't exactly the same, but the way you kind of set up your routing rules and things like that are similar. IIS is a little different because most of that's done, well, you can do it through PowerShell, but most people I know do it through the GUI, so it's a little weird. But maybe, yeah, I think that's all I have for tonight. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit of something about using Linux. This is the kind of thing that you would do, you know, mostly like a hosting job or a Linux administration, systems administration position. You would have to deal with sites like this, and you may have, you know, lots of servers that are running Nginx and a lot of different configurations that do different things, and you may have to put in redirects to different places, and you know, there's tons of other stuff in here that you have to do. We talked about htaccess files before, and you know, giving access to different directories and files, you know, through your web requests and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's just every live stream, I think I just want to give you more and more tools to kind of look into, you know, understanding how the web, how web servers serve information. I think is pretty important, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a developer, whether you're DevOps, whether you're sysadmin, understanding how that data flows and kind of seeing how this routing happens, I think is very valuable. So I would say mess with it, kind of see if you can practice some of the commands that we learned tonight. So any security things, that you should definitely change right. Oh, for Nginx, that's a good question. It's a hard question because I would deal with because most of the things are done now in the cloud. Initially I would deal with all the security way ahead of this. I would deal with it with the security rules I put in place before. I might deal with it with a fair amount of networking so that no one can actually access this server. Yeah, there's ways you can set this up so that the only thing that can access this server is a load balancer that exists in AWS, and you know, your requests only go through there. So I would deal with security in different ways. I think out of the box you're fine, as is with this. Leaving it open on port 80 is fine. That's how you're gonna have to serve everything. There's not really much to harden out of the box, so it's a good question for sure. But yeah, that's all I got for tonight. Try the stuff. I encourage you to grab a server from one of these providers, you know, cheap or free. And some of them, I think these are $3.50 per month. Or there's this one, Amazon has free ones that are a little, you know, the setup's a little more annoying because if you're not familiar with their interface and all this stuff is, this can be a little overwhelming. So an interface like DigitalOcean's or like Lightsail might be pretty cool and easy to get around. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back on probably Monday. I might try to do. I actually really liked. I think last Monday. I think I played games and kind of talked about burnout and imposter syndrome and stuff. I wanted to implement something on like Fridays where just kind of like a wind down where I play some games, kind of talk tech, talked about the stuff I learned for the week. But I found it very difficult to play games and talk. But it might be something I practiced, wouldn't hurt. So maybe you'll see me on Friday, maybe not. But I'll definitely be back Monday if not. Also, again, keep your eyes out for May the 4th. I'm going to be releasing a project that I'm working on. Like with the whole mastermind ideology, kind of a learning platform. So I think it's a pretty cool project, and I'm definitely gonna be looking for some feedback for that. So cool. I guess around highlight. Where you highlight the whole video? Thank you. I will look into that. I'll figure out how to do that because I should dive more into all the cool stuff Twitch has to offer, and kind of the ins and outs of it and what you can do. So thank you for that. I will look into that after this so that they don't get deleted. The good thing is I do have all of these videos saved. They record while I stream, so I will be posting these on my YouTube. I'm just adding. All I'm doing is adding I'm adding like a watermark to these. Not that it really needs it. And I'm cutting, for some of them, I'm cutting out some of the random stuff before I upload them all. So I have all of them since the beginning, and I'm just going to upload them all to a playlist, and continue to upload them to a playlist, after I do each one. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming soon. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. But thanks everyone for watching. I will be back on Monday. I hope everyone has a great week. And I'll see you then. Cool. Have a good night.